Right, welcome back to another options video, features and options, and this is for Triple Threat Basketball. My name is Brian Hafferkamp. I'm the designer and creator of Triple Threat. And in this series, we're going through some of the different options that you can, quote, turn on and off for the game. And so just like an arcade game or just like a video game, you're able to actually turn on and off certain options and kind of change the game to be the way that you want it to be, just like you could with a computer simulation or a video game. So in this video, we're going to cover scoring, I guess, or sort of shooting and gameplay, how you can do different things to change the way that the game is played. So I'll show you the by the book way. By the book, and that what I mean is like by the game guide. So we have our team here. And let's say Iverson is bringing the ball up the floor. And Iverson gets a 2. So we have our stuff here. The defense is a 1. And let's just make the action die a 5. So by the book, it would be a pass to the small forward. There's no tight defense. And so the pass is just a 5, and that would be a pass to the next player. Who is that to? The small forward, right? So that'd be a pass to Carmelo Anthony. So that's the sort of by the book way that you would go. And then now Anthony has the ball, and let's say Anthony has a 10, and Anthony has a 7, and then Anthony has a 9. He's being guarded by LeBron, right? So that's his counterpart on the play, and he's being guarded by LeBron James. So this would mean a 10 is a shot. So you can see here a 10 for a small forward on the second row. Excuse me, it would be a 3-pointer. 7 is tight defense from LeBron, which means that this -1 for LeBron James comes into play. So it's this action die -1. So a 9 becomes an 8. And on a 3-pointer, an 8 would still be good for Carmelo Anthony. So with LeBron James in his face, he makes a 3. Excuse me. And that's how the typical play might play out. In another video, we've gone through some of the different passing options that you can have, and some of the passing options, specifically being able to pass up a shot, which on the first or the second roll of a possession, you can pass up a shot and throw it to a particular player. So that is one way that you can play, and I'll show you, how that would work. Let's say Ray Allen is bringing the ball up the floor, and Ray Allen has a 6, but he's got a 7, and he's got, you can roll this die if you want to. I don't like to know what the result is going to be, but you could do that if you wanted to. So let's say you roll them all. A 6 for a shooting guard is a dribble drive. 7 means that he is tightly guarded. And then a 1 would mean that he is let's say he's guarded by Steph Curry, which is no defense at all. So he's a 0 defender. And on a dribble drive, he's guarded, and then he's got a 1. So on a dribble drive, that would actually be a block. So if you roll all 3 of these together, then you're going to know, okay, it's a dribble drive with a block. You could then say, I'm not going to take that, I'm going to pass. It's like you know the future. So I don't like to roll this until I know that I'm going to take a shot. So I like to generally roll these 2 and then roll this action die whenever I'm ready to take the action. That way I don't know the result of the play. But for the sake of speed, maybe you want to roll all of them, or just roll all of them and then still roll the action die whenever it's time to take an action. So I don't like to do it that way. I like to just roll these 2 until I get to a place where I'm going to take a shot, and then or I'm going to pass the ball or whatever. So that is another way that you can do it. If you roll all three, if you get to this place and either you know that this is going to be a shot you don't want to take, or you don't know, you take away the sort of action or decision, not decision, but the result. Really, it's a result die. And you want to ooh, goodness. And you want to pass up a shot. You can therefore say, I'm going to pass up the shot. It's a drive, but he is tightly guarded. He's going to pass up that shot. Now I can choose anybody that I want to throw the ball to. So I'm going to throw it into Antonio Davis. And Antonio Davis is the second player to handle the ball. He's the second player to handle the ball. So then you're going to roll. And Antonio Davis has, let's say he's got a shot, but he's tightly guarded. So his shot for the center on the second roll, the center and the power forward can only start on the second roll because they don't bring the ball up the floor. So when you're looking here, you're like, oh, why is this only 2? That's because they don't bring the ball up the floor in this game. You could change that if you wanted to or whatever. But he's got an 8. That's a dribble drive. So his drive to the basket is also, he's tightly guarded. And let's say he's tightly guarded by, who's playing center? Robert Parrish. He's tightly guarded by Robert Parrish, who's a -2. So anything we roll on this die here is going to be -2. So let's say we want a higher percentage shot than that. We want to try to get somebody open. And if they're guarded, then they're guarded, right? And you just have to take a shot. So we're going to pass the ball again. And so Davis is going to decide to pass it to Karl Malone. He kicks it out to AI. So we got a kick out for our last roll. And then at that point, I like to roll all of them together because there's no other possibilities here, right? When you get to the third roll, there are no possibilities for a pass. There are no possibilities to pass up a shot. So you just have to take whatever comes when you get to the third shot. So then you roll, and you got a 5, a 7, and a 2. And a 5 is going to be a dribble drive to the basket. He's guarded tightly. And let's say the defender is Gary Payton. Payton is a -2 defender, so he's one of the best defenders in the history of the NBA. So this 2 becomes a 0, and basically that's a steal at this point. I'm thinking about adding rare plays in, by the way, which in this sort of situation, if you had a 2 or a 1 and you go below the chart, so to speak, so a 2 -2 would be 0. Right, and there's no 0 in here. But if you ever get down to 0 or less than 0, then that would kick in some rare or unusual plays, which I think would be kind of a cool addition to the game. So be working on that at some point. So we have a miss, basically, or you could either call it a miss, you could call it a steal, because that's the lowest part of the chart. So you could call that a steal from Gary Payton. So on that dribble drive, AI gets the ball stolen from him. You can either give that steal to Gary Payton, or you can roll off of the steal chart to see who reached in and stole the ball. So that's sort of the typical gameplay. That's a couple of different options to play. The other one would be, let's say Ray Allen brings the ball to the floor, and the first thing that he has is a 3-pointer, and he's got a man in his face, and it's a 3. So off the chart, a 9 is going to be a 3-pointer. The defense is tight, and the result is a 3. Now you can just take that, and he has to take the shot. So when you roll, whatever comes out, that's what you take, right? So if we were doing that live, that would be a 3. 3 is going to be a pass to the power forward. He's not tightly guarded. The pass is a 2. So the 2 is a turnover. So if you wanted to play that way, where whatever you rolled, that's what happens. And you don't intervene at all. You don't say he's tightly guarded, he's jacking up a 3 when he comes down the floor. Whatever they decide to do, whatever the dice decide that the player is going to do, that's what you're doing on the play. And so this play here would result in a turnover from Ray Allen as he goes to throw the ball to the power forward, or small forward, power forward. He goes to throw the ball to the power forward. He's not tightly guarded, just normal defense, and he throws the ball away. So that would be sort of you watching the game happen in real time. And whatever these guys are deciding, whatever the dice are deciding that they do, that's what you take. So if it were a 9 and he had a 6 and it was a 6, then he's tightly guarded, obviously, by Steph Curry. It's a 0. And he's taking a 3-pointer on the first shot. And his 3-pointer, a 6, is going to be a miss. So he comes down, he shoots the ball, he misses a 3, 10 seconds off the clock. Now we're into the rebounds. Okay, so that's... I played that way too. It can be interesting because then they start hitting shots with people all up in their face. And kind of has a cool feel to the game where you're not intervening, you're not trying to decide who gets points or assists or where the ball goes on the offense. You're just sort of letting the game play out in front of you, and that's kind of a fun way to play as well. It also will cut down your time because all you're doing is you're just rolling all 3 dice at once, and whatever happens, happens, right? It doesn't matter if you know what this red die or this result die is, because whatever the result is, you're just going to take it and kind of move on with the game. So there's not a lot of human involvement or interaction in that style. The sort of the original vision for the game is that you can play that way, and then you can pass on a shot if you want to. So sorry about that. So those are the main game styles that I can think of about how to play. You could do something like always going off of the third one, so there's no passing at all. Whoever gets the ball, gets the ball. Or you could start at the second row, and so each time, just like in the fast breaks, you can only have one pass. You could play like that. So every possession starts at the 15-second row, and then if the player passes there, then whoever gets the ball is going to shoot the ball. So you can play that way too, and that would certainly cut down the time of the game, both on the clock and in how many times you have to roll. And then the last thing I want to cover is maybe just some roll strategies. So let me get these guys off the floor. So these are the dice that we use for the game. You can add as many D10s as you want, and they could each be for something very specific. You only really need 2 D6s. You could get away just with 1 D6 and 1 D10, because then you would just roll once for what kind of transition offense, who gets the ball, and then all of your plays. The initial offensive play, a 2 is going to be a pass, and then that pass goes to which player. Like, you could really get away with just these 2 dice playing the game. It would be a lot of rolls. So that's why I've introduced multiple dice, so that with one roll you can get many things sort of cleared off of the plate. I like to roll them all together just as 5. I like to have these 3 dice and match them up. I have the option, I have a lot of like colored dice, so I have the option to kind of match them up blue to blue green to green, and then red. Red I use for this and for the different, to see if the shot was made or missed or the pass was completed or not. So red is sort of the action die for me. And then each of these is set like this. So if you've ever wondered why I chose the colors I did, that's why I chose the colors I did. These were the colors that I just decided to use while I was playing and creating the game. So I use the blue die for whichever offense, the black for the transition. It just helps me to identify the dice a little bit more quickly. And then, the ball handler is the light colored one. I use these two for the jump ball. I always do dark for the home team, white for the away team. So when I do a jump ball, then that would be the home team wins the tip, right? So these dice are sort of multivariate for me, and kind of they make sense in my head in the way that I have them. When I play, I typically play, like I was saying before, I want to know what is the what's the offense outcome, and I want to know what's the defense on each play. So I don't always use the defense, but I like to have these two whenever I'm in a play. So typically I'll keep this off to the side, and then I'll roll these two and keep them together. So this means, like, say, it was a made basket. So this means it's going to be the set offense, and this means it's going to be the shooting guard who brings the ball up the floor. And then I'll look at my blue and my green, and so that would be a pass to the small forward for a 2. And then he's tightly guarded. And if I were playing a style where on every pass I have to roll this die here, then I would just roll, and then that 2 would actually be, depending on he's tightly guarded, so depending on the player's defensive ability, most modern guards are 0s, but there are some older guys that are -1s or 2s, or Michael Jordan is a -1. So that becomes a 1, and then that's actually a steal on most people's cards, or even for Gary Payton, that's going to be a turnover. So then that tells me what's going to happen as far as the action is concerned. And then on the turnover, I would roll again, and I would just roll these 4. So then that's a fast break to the other team's point guard. And the point guard comes down. That's going to be a pass to the small forward. And then he's heavily guarded, so then you might just see, does the defense affect the pass at all? Let's say it's a 0. Allen Iverson guarding him, it's a 0 on defense. So that 4 is a good pass. And then you would go to the next one. And once I roll these 2, they just sort of stay out there. They're for the beginning of the play. They don't really have a bearing on the rest of the play. It's the D10s they're going to be rolling. So again, I leave this off to the side, and I roll these 2 for the, what did I say it was? The shooting guard. Oh, it was a fast break. As a fast break, it's a pass to the small forward. And so on a fast break, anytime I reach the terminal row here, the roll for that particular player, I'm going to roll all 3. Because at this point, there's nothing you can do except take the shot. And I'm not going to pass. I'm not going to pass up the shot. So it doesn't matter if I know what the shot is or not. So I roll two dice, these 2 dice for the offensive play type and the defense, until I know that there's a shot. So like if one of these, like the first or the second row was a shot, and I wanted to take the shot, I would just roll all 3 if I could. But definitely on the third roll, I'm just going to roll all 3 and take what comes, right? So this would be let's say a pass to the small forward on the fast break. This is a layup dunk. A 6 is tightly guarded on the defense. And then a 3 would be the result. So depending on who the player is, a 3 could be a foul, it could be a miss, depending on who is guarding the player. And I almost always go with the opposite position. So if the small forward is taking the layup on the three-pointer, then it will be whoever the small forward is for the other team. If they're tightly guarded, I would use their defense for that. So let's say it's a 0, and then a 3 might be a foul. On a fast break, I always look for the foul chart on the player finder. I always look at the player finder in order to, on a drive to the basket or a fast break, I always use the player finder because you never know. They're going toward the basket, everybody's sort of converging, and you never know who's going to be the person with the foul on the player. So because you don't know, it's a little bit more randomized who gets the foul. If it is, let's say, a foul on a jump shot or a foul on a low post play, then I'll always attribute that to the opposite player. So if the center is a post-up play and he gets fouled on the shot, then I'll always attribute that to the opposite center, whoever's out on the floor playing against him at the moment, because the odds are that's almost always going to be the person who is fouling the player on a jump shot or a jumper. I think that's it. So those are just some basic rolling strategies. Obviously, you can roll it however you want to, but to start every possession, I always do I use this for the offense play type, and I use this for the defense, and then I have my 2 D6s every time. Those are the 4 that I'm going to start with every time. And then I like to reserve this for when I actually need to take a shot or decide, is a pass completed, or is there a rebound, whatever it is. This is sort of my action die. So I keep that off to the side as much as I possibly can. But you could obviously, if you were just playing it where you take whatever result comes, just pick them all up and roll them all at the same time, because whatever the result is here, that's what you're going to get. So if it's, let's say, a fast break for the point guard, and you come down and this is going to be a pass to the power forward, he's not guarded and the pass is good. So that's kind of how you would read that. Or he's not guarded tightly. He is guarded, but not tightly, just normal defense. So that's going to be a pass. The pass is good. And then you would pick up all 3 again. And the small forward takes it in for a layup or a dunk. He is not tightly guarded. And an 8 for almost every player is either going to be a layup or like a pull-up jumper, that kind of thing. So that would be a good shot. So if you're just taking whatever comes, and this was a fast break to the point guard, and he was tightly guarded, and he's going to go in for the layup, and then your result is a 5, and whatever happens, what happens, then roll all 3 at the same time, because you're going to need all 3 of those dice to come into play for the shot. But if you're wanting to be discerning and pass the ball and make decisions about where the ball goes, I would leave off the action die and just do the 3. Otherwise, you're going to know what the result is. So I don't like to know the result before I make the decision. I want to make the decision, and then there's a little bit of a risk reward with that. So a little bit of dice rolling strategy, a little bit of offensive strategy. How do you want to play the game? How much control do you want as a user in the game? And that's really the question that you want to ask, is how much control, how much knowledge do I want to have as the game is unfolding? And the more you interact with the game, probably the slower it's going to go, but also in some ways more satisfying. You can also massage and manipulate, assists, and who gets the most shots, and who gets the shots at particular times in the game. Let's say You know, it's the last 3 minutes of the game, and you want Jordan to be taking most of the shots. So if he doesn't bring the ball up the floor, somebody's going to pass it to Michael Jordan, and then Jordan gets to do what he does, right? And if he gets a shot, if he's not open, I'm taking it anyway, and we're going to force the action. So you get a lot of opportunities to do that if you use sort of the passing up the shot mechanism. Otherwise, you're just kind of watching the game play out, and it could be Michael Jordan scores 28 in this game, and maybe the next game he only scores 14. So it really just depends on who gets the ball, how the game plays out, how the passes work, how the rolls go. Are they high rolls? Or the one team getting a lot of low rolls? So it really is a multi-varied game and a multi-layered game that you can choose how much layer and depth that you want to put into the game. So hopefully that helps you with some rolling strategies, and also how to do the shooting, how to perform that part. If you haven't checked out the other videos in this playlist, go to the playlist, and it's really just walking you through some of the different features and options of the game that you can literally turn on and off at will, as many times as you want during the game, however you want the game to flow, or however you want to sort of build the typical gameplay for yourself. And maybe you want it to be different for different teams, just however you want to do it. It's your choice. You can use these things or not use them. If you have any questions or comments about the rolling or the shooting, just leave them down in the comments section below. I will get to them very quickly. If you haven't told anyone about this game, but you really like it, I encourage you, I would be grateful if you would tell someone about the game. It's been received very well in the tabletop basketball community, but maybe you know some people who are not necessarily into basketball that might like a little bit more of an arcade style, or having the great players in the NBA is not quite the same as getting into the weeds of, your eighth player off the bench, coming in and making sure he gets 12 minutes a game and all that kind of stuff. So maybe they would like a little bit high level, their stars and names that they recognize, and maybe that will help them to get into basketball gaming. I'm not sure. But if you would share the game, that would be great. That's how this game is going to grow, and more people are going to experience or get into it. I'm a little small channel. We're a small community of tabletop basketball gamers, but it's not like the community can't grow. And maybe through a game like this or other games, there's an opportunity to reach maybe a new gaming audience with tabletop basketball. The easiest thing you can do is just give the video a thumbs up. It doesn't cost you anything, but it actually helps the video quite a bit. And if you want to share the video, that helps it a lot a bit. And if you want to subscribe, that helps even more. You'll get news and updates for Triple Threat Basketball at this YouTube channel. And you'll be able to sort of keep up with what's going on with the game. I mentioned putting rare plays in there. I'll announce that. I would like to do that because sometimes it does fall below the chart. It falls below 1. And so it doesn't make sense to just cap everything at 1. You can go a little bit farther, and you can have 4-point play opportunities, like where you get fouled on a 3, or crazy plays that just kind of happen in basketball, hitting the top of the backboard, or whatever it is. There's lots of different things that could happen. Tipping it in, the wrong player tipping it into the basket, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of crazy things that could happen in a basketball game. Charging fouls. There are certain things that are not built into the game that I think you could include, and those would be offensive fouls, that sort of thing, that could be included into the game. Loose ball fouls. So there's a bunch of ideas that I have that I'm just kind of floating around, and I've done rare play charts like that for other games, so I think it would be pretty easy. We have lots of good dice to be able to use for a rare plays chart, and it could be as extensive or as brief as we want it to be. Okay, I think that's it from here. I'll probably have 1 or 2 more in this series, and be looking out for those in this playlist, and this will just give you the different options that you can use to play the game. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.